we're going to talk about Sasha's experiences in language learning. Sasha, I'm so curious about, you are a self-confessed Francophile. We were just talking right before the live when we were, struggling to actually get live. You're from the DC area, and kind of connect the dots for us about how you went from being a Francophile American to actually making the leap into spending some time in France with the eye on being there maybe full time in the future.
Yeah, yeah. So my husband and I have been coming back and forth to France for over a decade. The first time I came here was in my 20s with my family, and I fell in love with Paris right away, as many people do. And so my husband and I have always loved France. I just love the culture, the people, the food, the wine, the beauty, the literature. I could go on. Um, and I've never lived abroad. My husband's never lived abroad. And at the end of 2023, we had sadly lost all of our little fur babies. They'd all crossed over the Rainbow Bridge, and we kind of looked at each other and were like, we don't have anything holding us back from making this dream of spending more time in France and hopefully ultimately moving there a reality. So let's kind of start the process. Let's get things underway. Kind of take small bites of the apple or elephant, as I like to say, which is kind of a gross metaphor. But and so we started with a 3-week trip at the end of 2023, and slowly we've gradually increased our time here. And we just got our long stay visas, which means so a normal
Congrats.
tourist visa allows you to be in the country for 90 days. A long stay visa allows you to be in the country for a year, and you renew every year. So it gives us a little bit more flexibility. We don't have to race back to the States. Um, and we want to, ultimately live here full time.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I'm sure many people tell you that you're living their dream, and I think it's true for us as well. I've always fantasized about the idea of living overseas for an extended period of time, and kind of just never made it happen. And part of what I'm hearing from you is like, just make it happen, just do it.
Well, yeah, yeah, yeah. So here's the thing. So my mother died when I was 40 and she was 68. So she died very young, and I went through many years of watching her be sick and not being able to
Sorry.
do some of the things she wanted to do. And that was such a wake-up call for me when I was 40. Well, actually, no, I'm sorry. She got diagnosed when I was 26. She died when I was 40. So
Wow.
that was
Oh my gosh.
13 years of watching someone I love dearly, suffer. And so that's always been in the back of my mind that you got to live in the moment. You have to sort of jump at chances when they present themselves. And obviously, after COVID and being, locked down and not being able to travel and not being able to do all these things, I got a lot of time to think about what I wanted to do, and my husband also was very much on the same page, and so we just said, "Let's just start this process. Let's take small steps and make this happen."
I love it. I've read a bunch of your stuff, and I love the way that you kind of portray the small step approach to just getting over there and doing it. It's a really different mindset, because I think maybe like a lot of people in my head, I feel like I would need to have everything all together, every box ticked, every last thing pulled together, and it's not kind of an all or nothing thing. Like, part of what you're showing is you can set your intent and go over in small bites, and yeah, that's
Well,
amazing.
I mean, my sort of life philosophy is don't let perfect be the enemy of the good.
Yeah.
Um, I am a self-described non-perfectionist. I just think that you spend a lot of time, being a perfectionist, you miss out on all kinds of good things. So in a lot of ways, I like to jump in with both feet, and, I'm not, but at the same time, like, I don't want to misrepresent. I'm not a massive risk taker. Like, I haven't
Right.
done anything super huge and bold. So it's maybe like this little middle ground, this little gray area that I'm trying to make peace with. But yeah, I do think as you get older, you kind of realize that, time is limited. And I'm 56. 60 is like right around the corner, which freaks me out. And yeah, so this is what I'm really passionate about and excited to be making it happen.
I just want to let you know that there in the chat, there's a whole conversation about how gorgeous your hair is. And
Or too
and
kind. Thank
I've read
you.
your article about going to the salon in France. I don't know if you're comfortable sharing that. Are
Of
you
course. Yeah. Yeah. So
you
last
and Dana can
year,
bond over massive hair deals because Dana has a whole ritual down.
well, yeah, I mean, when you travel, you don't have your normal stylist or your colorist or whatever. So when I came to Dijon, my hair was very gray. It was really in desperate need of some refreshing. And I met this lovely French woman who had curly hair as well. And I said, "Oh, I love your hair. Where did you get it done?" And she pointed me to her salon. And she's like, "Oh, it's great. It's all natural." And I said, "Oh, cool. Like, that'll be awesome." So I went, dragged my husband with me because I speak a little French, but not enough to like really survive a French hair salon. You don't want to, say the wrong thing and have them be like, "Oh yeah, she wants it jet black." Um, so, anyways, I ended up getting this henna hair color and sitting there with this mud, on my hair for 2 hours
Oh
while
my God, that
all
stuff is so gloopy too.
it's
I haven't
so
done henna in
gloopy.
ages.
It just kind of sat there, and all the
Yeah.
French ladies sitting around me kind of once they rinsed it out, I was like, "Oh my god, it's so orange. It's crazy orange. This is disturbing." And they all came over and they said, "Oh, it's fine. You'll be fine." And it was I was freaked out, but it turned out okay. So, I may even go back to that salon on this one.
There you go. The ultimate vote of confidence. I might
Yeah.
actually go back there.
I can only
Well, yes.
imagine one of the things, sorry if I'm jumping in there.
Oh, go. Go.
Like there's a slight delay, probably because I'm watching my phone and the laptop's right behind it. So I'm seeing us in real time and then us like a few seconds delayed processing. One of the things, in addition to funding, which there's a big conversation in the chat going on about, seeking asylum and how much money one needs to expatriate and these sorts of things. To me, one of the things that's most scary is losing everything that's familiar, right? You have lost language, which is a whole barrier in and of itself. But then there's just also the sense of like, you know, what kinds of hair dyes are there, or what, like every little thing that you've known about culture and sort of how to move through the world in your familiar city and country evaporates, right? And you have to
Exactly.
rediscover things. What have been some of the most surprising things to you other than having bright orange hair?
So I mean, it is every day is an adventure. Every day you're sort of learning new things and um, being embarrassed in different ways. But you kind of learn to embrace it, I guess. I mean, surprising things. I know well, I don't want to say I know French culture really well because if there are French people on here, they will not be happy with me. But I've been here many times, and so I've kind of grown accustomed. Let's see, what are some of the things? I mean, one of the things I love that's a big part of French culture is what they call politesse, which means saying bonjour and au revoir and have a good day to everyone. And I love that element of French society because I think it kind of adds this connection to people that is really important. And that's something that I think any American coming to France needs to do. I love the culture around the obsession with cheese, the obsession with wine, my personal obsession with bread, which I've written about. Um, let's see what else. I often feel very unfashionable in France, especially in Paris, and I've written about sort of feeling very out of step with the elegant French women who always seem to kind of look put together, even if it's just they're throwing on a 20-year-old scarf and, a 10-year-old blazer. They just have this I'm not going to use je ne sais quoi, but I did. Je ne sais quoi. They just have this presence about them that I find really uh, both admirable and a little out of reach as well. Yeah.
I can only imagine. I have spent very little time in France, but I do remember the women looked so elegant. It just looks so effortless. You're just like, how? How did you wake up and roll out of bed apparently looking
Right. How
this
do you eat
gorgeous?
all that bread and still look fabulous?
Oh, well, this is the perpetual mystery of France. I do not understand. Not only is there bread basically at every meal, but lunches are usually 3 courses. Dinners are usually 3 or 4 courses. There's wine with dinner, sometimes there's wine with lunch. There's just so much joy around food, and yet there is, not a lot of obesity in the country as far as I'm aware. Although I've heard that it's getting a little bit worse because of all the availability of, fast food and processed food that didn't used to exist here.
I was reading one of your pieces about bread and croissants, where you found a great boulangerie,
Yeah.
and you've got all these pictures of beautiful croissant and bread. And I was kind of dying reading it because it all just looks so good and amazing. What is maybe the biggest revelation about French bread that you've come across? Is there?
There's just so much good French bread. It's shocking. I mean, there's boulangeries all over the place. There's all different kinds of bread made with rye and sourdough and white flour and whole wheat flour, different shapes, different textures, but pretty much across the board. Sure, you can get a maybe not so great baguette if you're just getting sort of an ordinary baguette, what's called a baguette ordinaire, which is made with white flour. um, Maybe that's not so great, but by and large, they just are experts at making gorgeous crusty loaves, which yeah, I'm eating way too much of.
Yeah, and again, I was reading it, and I loved you going into the, oh, don't get the baguette ordinaire. There's so many better choices. There's a
Yeah.
traditional one, I think, which is your preference.
It's called the baguette tradition, and it's just made with, I believe, 4 ingredients: flour, yeast, water, and salt. And it's just got this amazing crust and a wonderful texture. And I really like the ones that are made with sourdough also, because again, it just adds a special, an extra element to it. But I live just outside of DC, and when I'm not in France, and and you cannot get. I'm just gonna say you really can't get a good baguette there. And the one place that has pretty good ones, they're charging almost $6 as opposed to 1.5 euros here. So, yeah.
So that's it. We're all moving over. That decides it. There's a great question in the chat here, and
Yeah.
it kind of harkens back to the elegant women conversation we were having, and also this idea of like um, effortlessly thin people
Yeah,
eating all the bread.
which I've
Uh,
never been and never will be, so
Girl, same. Polly is asking, is there a similar feeling among 50-plus-year-old women in France as there is here who just stop caring about what people think and stop trying to make everyone happy?
right. I think that women here started kind of came out of the womb feeling more like that than we do in the States. I think that there is less of a sort of, "Oh, I just woke up at 50 and now I'm gonna completely change my life and not give a crap anymore about stuff." I think that French women have been like that kind of for forever, as much younger. So, I don't think that there's necessarily that same sort of, dramatic shift
Okay.
necessarily. But, hormones are really interesting. They do crazy things to people, and,
Indeed, they are.
yes, and so I can't really speak to, you know, French women in that, on that level of detail because I really only have a few French friends that I am just getting to know. So, but yes, someone wrote French women perpetually give zero fucks. That
Yes.
is typically true. Yeah, that is kind of like that's the general vibe here. Absolutely.
It's so, um but my mind is kind of steeping in diet culture thinking, both because I've been working on a story on this topic forever and because I'm at home and deeply steeped in that is my family of origin. Women being I have a funny example, Lawrence, that I was going to show you, which is this is a very fine American pastry. It's a biscotti, like a Costco
Yes.
biscotti in a plastic bag. My mom loves these, so she has them in there. But she's like, I have like a third or a quarter at a time.
Oh my God.
And do you want some? I'm not really supposed to have gluten, but so I thought actually I grabbed a whole one, but I see I've only grabbed half, and I was gonna just while I have the house to myself, I was like, I'm gonna just eat this whole very large biscotti
Right.
as we talk. But it doesn't seem like I only know French culture from tourism. I lived in Spain for a couple months years ago. It doesn't seem like women tend to bond over food and eating here in ways that I feel uncomfortable with because it's all a culture of restraint, right? Like, oh, I had so little of this. Oh, I was so bad and I did this. I feel
Yes,
like that's really American.
it
I don't know
is.
if you're steeped into the culture enough there to be able to speak to it to say,
Yeah.
is this a thing in France? Or is it like, you got a croissant, eat the whole goddamn croissant. It's delicious.
Well, it's very American. It's also very British, to sort of
Hmm.
scold yourself and talk about how you shouldn't be eating this and that.
Hmm.
I can just say what I observe. I do see tables and tables of women eating tremendous amounts of food, including all ordering their own desserts and eating them happily and every last spoonful, which I think is just the most beautiful thing. And I wish I
I'm
could
giving you
do that.
hearts.
But like that thing in your brain that tells you, you know, is so part of who I am that it's very hard to kind of not constantly be thinking, "Oh, how many calories in that? How many calories in that?" So it's but yeah, I think it's very different mentality here. I mean, food equals joy, equals family, equals love, all good things in this country.
Right, right. And American diet culture has absolutely deep, deeply programmed into us that none of that is true in America, right? Like you may have family connections to food, but there's always the thought of like, how many calories is this? And oh gosh, I'm gonna feel this tomorrow or whatever.
Yes, I
Right.
will say though, I just want to sort of bring in something I have also observed. I have seen women here with disordered eating. It's definitely here. There is this sort of dislike of or it's a thin culture. People are
Right.
generally naturally genetically thin here, but also it's sort of frowned upon to not be thin. So I'm sure that there's a lot of pressure here to be thin.
Okay. Fair enough. The chat is, Wendy pointed out here, and I've noticed it too. We've had a few flashes of the live audio go out.
Uh-huh.
Not the audio, sorry, the video. So stick with us. I wonder if Substack's just having issues today. We had to start up the live twice to get it going.
Yeah, I think it's Substack issues. Like
Okay.
we when we tried to
Come on,
join the live, it
Substack.
took forever. Yeah,
Get
come
it
Pull it
on,
together,
together,
Substack.
Substack.
grind
We've been
the.
waiting to we've been waiting to have Sasha on for a while. Don't let us down, Substack. Talk about do you guys have talk about where you are actually. I'll just end it with that.
Yeah.
Where in France
So
are you? Is it a big city, a little city?
yeah, we
Take
are
us
in
with you.
we are in Dijon, France, which is in Burgundy, which is one of the most revered wine regions in the country. It's about an hour and a half by train south of Paris.
Mm-hmm.
It's a beautiful town. It's about 150,000 people.
Mm.
It's very old and historic because it's one of the few cities that was not bombed during World War II. So you've got these tremendous, churches and Roman, buildings and um, Belle Epoque buildings and things, buildings from all of um, these time periods, and there are cobblestone streets here. The entire historic center is all cobblestone streets, pedestrian friendly. Um, we have not been to the countryside. We are going to the countryside this weekend. I'm super excited. Our new friends are taking us to the countryside to visit
Amazing.
with some of their family, and I cannot wait because this to me is like really like true authentic experience that I normally don't ever get to have. So I can't wait. Um, what else? Yeah, it's just it's a stunning city. The people are lovely. The food is great. There's not a I mean well, I should say there are some wonderful museums here. They're all free. Um, and yeah, we're really digging it. So we're here for a total of and then we go to Rouen, which is in Normandy, France, which is all the way up north. We're
Right.
there for a while, and then we kind of travel around some more and eventually make our way back to the States.
So I have to ask. Normally, we end up talking about politics in some way or the other on this show. Just
Of
because
course, you
we're
can't.
all
Of course.
steeping in it, right? What is it like being in France as all of the craziness is happening? Like, do you keep as abreast of news as maybe we are when we're soaking in it, or do you apologize to people for what's going on in the
Yes.
States?
Yeah. I mean, yes. Most people here understand that most of the people who come here don't like our current president.
Right.
So as far as I don't feel it as viscerally as I did living just outside of DC. I mean, when you're 15 minutes from the White House, there's just something about the energy.
Sure.
It's really hard to explain, but it just every single person you come across, there's this real intense feeling that, ooh, is that person, you know, did that person vote for him? Oh, what are they thinking? Like, what are their politics? Here, that whole piece of the experience is gone. But of course, we stay on top of the news. It still hurts. It's heartbreaking. It makes me sick to my stomach
Yeah.
uh, to read what's going on in the States. And I, of course, talk to friends and family all the time. So um, you're always, you can go anywhere in the world, but you're always an American and you feel this heartbreak about what's happening in our country, no matter where you are.
100%. Can I take a quick shift since we are bridging the topic on politics? I was really looking forward to talking to Lawrence about this today, and I think you will have find this interesting as well. Um, the New York mayor elections. Can we take a quick pause and talk about Zoran Mamdani? And I wanted context of I woke up, I saw the news that he had won the primary, and came out. My mom's not home right now, so that's part of why I'm like, I should chat about this before she gets back. This is my mom, who is liberal, sort of like, you know,
In a
uh,
way that a silent generation person is liberal, which is to
yes,
say not as liberal as the rest of us, maybe.
yes, boomer, an old boomer, but
Right.
barely.
Okay.
She'll be like, "Don't call me that. It's not my generation." But she was like, "That guy with the weird name, and he's a socialist." One,
Okay.
and I was like, "Please don't do that. Don't like. He's not a socialist. He's a democratic socialist. There's a big difference." And the guy with the weird name is not okay.
Right.
And then I ran into one of her friends here in her building who is her age, but very liberal and politically active down here, like supports all these candidates and blah, blah, blah. And she saw me and was like, I'm listening to a podcast about the mayor election. She's like, I wish there'd been someone in between him and Cuomo because so many people are vote moderate.
There were two candidates who were between Mamdani, and they both lost significantly worse than Cuomo did. Like,
That would have been a good answer, actually. I
right.
didn't follow all the
There was a
candidates.
perfectly acceptable, if you wanted a white man who was liberal but not too liberal, I don't remember his name, Lang, I think, the comptroller who was arrested for escorting people to their immigration hearings. Like, he was a good
Oh,
progressive, like, white
I
dude
heard about her.
hero. Like, he was a totally acceptable choice. If they had wanted that, they would have voted for that. But Mamdani is representing, I mean, this is just my opinion.
Yes, I want your hot take on this. This is why I'm asking.
Yeah,
He
I like what I'm
represents
reading about him.
true change. You know, we've been having this. So Sasha, Dana, and I, and the whole crew here have been having a conversation for, months about it's time for a change in leadership in the Democratic Party. And,
yeah,
the older generation, like Chuck Schumer, like, thank you for your service. And you're in your 70s or 80s, and it's time to sit down and let Gen X and millennial and even Gen Z folks kind of take a turn. And I think that's exactly what Mamdani represented. And most importantly, in the modern age, he spoke authentically about his experience as a New Yorker, what average New Yorkers were thinking and feeling. And like, I'm not going to say like everything we feel about Trump. His one secret skill is that he speaks completely off the cuff, unvarnished, directly to people, and that kind of authenticity resonates. And Mamdani has that, and Cuomo did not. Cuomo is absolutely old school, old way of doing things. And
I'm like,
also, let's face it,
no more sex offenders.
right? See, yeah, credibly charged as being a sex offender. Come on,
Yes, yes. I
Sasha.
just
What's your perception? I'd love to hear it.
Um, I don't have a particularly strong opinion on this topic. I haven't been following the race super closely, and I don't know enough about the gentleman who won to really speak about it. Um, but obviously Cuomo was hugely problematic. So that's, so yeah, I don't have a lot of things to say on this. I'm sorry.
No,
it's
no, that's
okay.
okay. And
I Yeah, sorry, go ahead, Lawrence.
I was just going to say, it's just like us to kind of take a turn into politics.
It just happened
Oh,
last night, and so I was like, I'm really eager to hear your input on this because my gut reaction was good.
No,
First of all, that I was like, not Cuomo,
right.
awesome.
My
yeah.
But this is there's conversation going on in the chat too of like, my mom thinks I'm like some crazy radical now because I live in Seattle and we're just all radicals out there, and I'm like, I think I'm a like centrist to liberal like Democrat. I am not a bleeding edge leftist. But the needle has moved so far
right.
to the conservative side. I wouldn't
Yeah,
even say to the right because that's a homonym for correct. That I was reading what he stands for, what I'm gonna Zoran stands for, and I was like, this all seems pretty great to me. Like he's looking to drive down food costs in New York by having 5 state-sponsored grocery stores, one
right.
in
It's a
each
great
borough.
idea.
It's a
That's
great
great.
idea. I
Right.
like,
And
okay, see if that works, test it, but try something innovative. That how much could that really cost? Like that seems like a win for everybody
right.
to try.
Sasha,
Yeah.
And
I'm betting I'm betting that their access to good food, even in downtown Dijon, is significantly better than it would be in any American downtown, right? Like, you've got
Yeah.
boulangeries and fromageries and
I will
access to
say that
food in urban areas.
yes, and food here is by and large much more affordable than it is in the States. And the social services here obviously are fantastic. And that's one of the big things I love about this country. I feel like they take care of their people.
Right.
They take care of the vulnerable
yes,
population. And
heart.
in the States it feels like just every man for themselves, every man and woman for themselves. We don't give a shit about, poor people, brown people, black people. We're just going to let, you know, the vulnerable people fend for themselves. It disgusts me in every way. It really does. So that's another big reason. And I believe the government here is socialist Democrat, if I'm not
Yeah.
mistaken.
Right.
And I'm all for it. I'm all for social services and education for everyone and healthcare for everyone and elder care for everyone. That's what it's all about, and I'm a big believer in all of that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's what you've said so hit the nail on the head there of like, we as Americans have started just thinking that profitability is good. And so anything that gets mentioned of like the government could provide a service to help everyone, but especially people who are marginalized, just becomes like people scream the S word. They start screaming socialist and how horrible it is. And it's like,
Yeah.
y'all, government is supposed to help people.
Right.
This is
Yes.
the proper role of government. Like, that's the whole reframing that needs to happen from within the Democratic Party, in my mind, of just like, it's okay to say, you know what? Why shouldn't public transportation indeed be public and free or close to it?
Yep. Exactly.
Why are you so hung up on your like, no, everybody has to pay bootstraps mentality that you can't see that like a right to housing, a right to like being able to get to your job in an affordable way. Like these are good things that help elevate all of us, even if it
Yep.
doesn't directly impact you, person A, who's screaming about socialism. It's maddening. It just,
Is maddening, and it makes and Dana,
yeah,
the thing that kills me the most is sometimes it's the people that need it the most who are screaming the loudest that we shouldn't be doing it in the States, which is nuts to me. It's the people who are gonna be going on Medicaid who are saying, "You don't want, universal healthcare and Obamacare or whatever. We,
Right.
stay out of our state government, stay out of our business. Like, you don't, okay, so you want roads that are filled with potholes and that are dangerous. You can't go to the doctor. You can't get affordable food to eat. It makes no sense. I don't understand it."
Right.
Yeah.
Right. There's a conversation going on in the chat about taxes in France, which, are
Mhm.
obviously higher to
Yep.
support a social safety net like that.
Yes.
I, I'm curious. So you're not living there per se yet. You're on the extended
Correct.
visa, the 1-year visa. Is there
Yes. We're
any
back and we're back and forth.
okay?
We're back.
Is there any expectation that you're paying tax on any like income that you get from your
Not given our particular situation, which I'm not going to go into great detail about, but we
Sure.
still pay U.S. taxes.
Yeah.
But that is certainly a very interesting topic, and anyone who's considering moving to France or coming over here and working or whatever you might want to do, I say talk to a lawyer, and I'm not one.
Yeah. Okay, so it is complicated when it comes to kind of the tax situation.
Yes, it's all complicated. I mean, the bureaucracy here is legendary. We talked to an immigration attorney, which I think is money well spent if you can. There's certainly some good information out there, but there's a lot of bad information out there and misinformation out there.
Right.
So, yeah, yeah, but the tax thing is I think that it's a choice that you make when you live in a society that protects its people and cares for its people. I'm okay with higher taxes if it means um, all the good things that come of that. And also, I'm sorry, we have very high taxes in the States, and I don't even want to go into all the crap that we're not getting for our money and where our money is going.
Right.
This, that, and the other. So,
Yeah. Yeah, very large bombs that apparently can't actually obliterate the things that we aim them at.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
how, sorry, I'm going to go on a slight tangent about that too, Florence, of like, I was almost inarticulate yesterday because I was so just like rage filled that I'm now slightly maybe more articulate. Watching the news, because again, I'm not at home, I'm at my mom's, the TV news is on. And this just sort of acceptance of like, well, of course, in one strike, he obliterated absolutely everything that needed to be obliterated. And then a few hours later, a ceasefire. And that's just given as those things happened. And I'm like, I'm not watching that closely, admittedly. There's no fucking way that this incompetent, narcissistic maniac was able to, no one could accomplish that. Like, oh, you obliterated
Welcome to Gen X, Sasha.
Yeah, no,
everything
I
that
think
they
you're spot on. I mean, I am 100% in agreement with you, Dana.
right? And so the journalists just sort of taking it at face value of like, oh, well, there's a ceasefire now. And every single nuclear capability that this sovereign nation has been building for how long was wiped out in one strike because it was the best strike ever, most brilliant, best ceasefire ever, very well negotiated. But there's just no way that those two things can be true.
Can I
Right.
can I connect
Yes.
some dots between this topic and the Mamdani topic, which is
Yes.
we're seeing the corporate ownership of the media. We are seeing the right-wing bias of the corporate media in both of those stories because Mamdani won, and the big story is, oh God, a democratic socialist has won. Like, it's not going to be, they're already trying to portray him as a crazy person. Like, literally, it just happened, and they've already kicked up, uh, the full campaign is going to be him being tarred and feathered as the craziest left-wing socialist ever. And yes, the corporate media is not doing a great job. The legacy media, whatever we want to call it, they're doing a terrible job of asking the follow-up questions of, like, after the bombing, could it be, that we actually got everything in one go? And was it worth it to spend all this money on these enormous bombs that cost millions and millions of dollars? And now to just sort of take it at face value of like, oh yeah, there's a ceasefire because Trump said there was a ceasefire. All of that is, we here are doing more authentic journalism and reporting and, connection making than the corporate media is doing because
it's batshit crazy. I'm sorry. It's just batshit crazy.
It
And
is.
there's no truth in media anymore. And it kills me because I was a journalist for many years. I come from that background. I think maybe you guys also. And
we do not, just to be.
You don't. Oh yeah. So I mean, I was never a hard news reporter or anything like that, but it felt like there was a little bit of objectivity going on way back in the day. I mean, maybe it never was objective and we just thought it was. I don't know. But now I read, I look at the New York Times homepage and I'm like, I don't really know what's going on there.
Right.
I really don't. And I unsubscribe to the Washington Post, of course.
Yeah, same.
Girl, same. Yeah.
I think, I mean, Sasha, just kind of following on, I think there was a bit of integrity. There used to be a bit of integrity in the news. And it really was just asking the follow-up question or framing it as, hey, this bombing just occurred and we don't know what the result is yet. It's impossible to know in the first 20 minutes afterwards. Just that little bit of follow-up or that little bit of framing it kind of in the center of here's both sides, or a little bit of, the directions, both directions it could be viewed from.
Right. And all these really, the word good journalists, people who really do have integrity are getting fired right and left. But you know what? Good thing that there's Substack, that they have a platform.
Absolutely.
And there's like a platform for people to speak, truth to power rather than just, sitting in their basement somewhere and, not doing anything. So at least we have that. I mean, Substack's not perfect, but it's better than nothing.
Yeah. The chat is going on about this too, of how now the Washington Post is coming full circle and coming to Substack for writers.
Oh,
because
God.
they're realizing that authentic voices are important. Lawrence is Gen X. I'm always like, we're the Fulcrum generation. We remember when, but like Edward R. Murrow. Do you remember the movie about him? I remember studying him in journalism class in high school because I was almost a journalist. I didn't end up going into that field because I had questions about integrity even way back then. But we remember as children watching the news, and it was like sacrosanct. Like those guys they were almost all men. Connie Chung, thank you for breaking some glass ceilings there. But like they were so serious, and there was so much honor in doing journalism, right? Like there really was.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
and it seemed very old-fashioned even to my ears back then but still there was a sense of like when Dan Rather spoke, like it meant something.
Yeah.
And we have been the ones to witness the downfall, and many of us got caught up in it and are now like Fox News idiots the Gen X side who put Trump back into power. But of those of us who can remember when news wasn't entertainment, it was like a moral code that you had to be challenging what was going on, and it was recognized as one of the legs that was keeping democracy stable, right? One
Right.
of the legs of the table. Gen X is the last generation that can really remember that, I think. Even by the time the millennials were coming around, there was a 24-hour news cycle. There was sort of this Fox News was around, and there was this biased entertainment for-profit mentality to news. Do
I
you guys
agree.
hear a lot of feedback? Sorry, I'm wondering if
Yes.
Oh,
it's me.
it's the hammering from me.
Or
Oh,
Lauren. If anyone here has watched Succession, I mean, that just kind of gives you the whole gory underbelly of how things work behind the scenes, and it's all about eyeballs and money and advertising and
yes.
screw the truth, and all that. So, I'm glad, like I said, that we can at least for now, uh, speak our minds.
Yes. There was a really good. So can you understand the news in French when it comes on? Is your French that
No.
good, or
Oh, hell no.
Oh,
No, I am a well, in sort of the levels of French, it's A1, A2, B1, B2. I'm like an A1 and a half, which means I can get by doing the basics, but anything more complicated, like reading a book or understanding a movie or watching the news, I only kind of understand words here and there, and I can get the gist of a lot of it, but I have a long way to go. Very long way.
which Lawrence and I have compared you to David Sedaris.
I
Uh,
loved your story about
And
being
anyone who
able to.
compares me to David Sedaris, I am not worthy. Thank you. Thank you,
you
Lawrence. Thank
you
you.
talk pretty one day, Sasha. I mean,
I will talk pretty one day.
Yes.
Maybe, hopefully, God willing.
oh my
I
gosh.
did note in one of your recent articles you skipped immersion class because there was a beautiful baguette, or not baguette, croissant or something calling to
Both.
you.
I got both. I got both.
Right.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, my French teacher was kind of a bitch. I'm just going to be honest.
Right.
He had this
that
very
checks.
old school teaching style that gave me flashbacks to when I was in ninth grade. And I went for the whole 2 weeks. I learned a lot despite her. And then the last day I was like, nope, not going back for more scolding. I am going to get myself a beautiful croissant and a baguette and enjoy the afternoon. And that's what I did.
That sounds like an excellent choice to me.
Yes, a wise choice.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, Tell me about your experience with learning French. So I took like 2 years of high school French, and I played around with Duolingo, but I mean I have so little French it's laughable. What was your background kind of coming into it, being a
Yeah.
Francophile?
So I did take it in high school. I was a terrible student. I do talk about that on the Substack. I had a French teacher who was not a very nice man, and he would throw erasers and chalk at us. And I didn't learn much. I was too busy, you know, going after boys and gossiping and stuff. So I did that in high school. Then after I graduated college, I took maybe one class at the Alliance Française. I don't have a natural affinity for language, which I think comes down to the fact that I'm terrible at memorizing things, and you really have to be good at memorizing. So I did that. I do Duolingo. I've taken a few other Alliance Française classes recently, and then I'm going to be taking a class in a few weeks in Rouen, which I hope will. It's kind of like this. I'm trying. I'm doing my best, and my husband speaks French quite well, and he's helping me out a little bit.
Do you find that the French are responding well, like because you're trying to learn the language, that there isn't kind of that scorn that we think of with.
They're lovely. That's all I can say.
Oh,
Is
good.
across the board, um, they so appreciate it when you're trying, and I haven't had any experience, except for my French teacher, where I felt like kind of crappy because I wasn't doing a good job speaking the language. So I think that you got to just kind of push through that feeling of feeling like an idiot and kind of go for it. That's the best way to learn. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. I know for me, there's, French is so full of tones and, I don't know what the right word is, just little nuances that American English doesn't really have. For me, it was almost like training my mouth how to make those sounds because they're so crucial in French to kind of understanding. Are you talking about a man or a woman? Or, this
Oh,
word
the
means what?
pronouns. Yes.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Pronouns for everything. Pronouns for everything. And conjugation. And it's a complicated language. I mean, I don't know if I'll ever be even conversational. I really hope so. But it's a long journey before I get there. And in the meantime, I'm doing my best. But it's hard, being in midlife and learning even if you studied it in high school or college. I mean, that's
Right.
like a zillion years ago. That barely counts.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember years ago living in Spain. I studied Spanish in high school. And in my 30s, I lived in Spain for a few months to study it. And it was already like, I'm too old to ever really properly immerse and know this. Like, probably never be fully fluent, and I will certainly never understand it like a native. And I can imagine that going back now, it would only be way, way worse. So it's so courageous of you to do this. And like, does it have any impact on your long-term ability to stay there? Like, is there a requirement around learning the language in order to move there permanently full time?
To become
Or
a
is that
French Yes, to become a French citizen, there is a language requirement, that has changed recently. I believe it's slightly harder than it was, but to live here as a non, French citizen, there is not a language requirement, but it certainly makes it quite difficult if you can't chat with people. It's very frustrating, to not be able to joke around and, get to know people. So, that's real motivation for me to learn the language. Looks like a
yeah.
lot's going on in the chat about, Trump. Is he
There's
speaking now or something? I hope not.
he's
Apparently, he's speaking live on MSNBC or on All Night
Oh, no.
right now.
Oh, no.
yeah.
Bad timing.
No,
Right,
what
really
good
bad
timing.
timing. But I
Way
was
better to be
commenting on
talking to me. So
on Polly had a comment about she was once fluent in French and thought that it would come back to her when she visited her daughter in Rennes. I'm not sure. See, I don't know how to pronounce that word
Red,
correctly.
red.
And that it was a shock that it didn't come back like that. And that's really interesting to me too, because I kind of thought like, oh, once you learn it, it's like, it's like riding a bicycle. It'll come
It's
back.
not like riding a bicycle, sadly. I wish it were like that, but, yeah, it's tough. It's tough, but, we'll see. Hopefully, I can make it work.
Lawrence, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I didn't know you took French, and I don't know how I didn't know that. I know you took German. Did
I
you
took,
also take French?
yes, I took 4 years of German and 2 years of French,
I
which
have no memory of that.
I, um, yeah,
I'm a terrible friend. Yeah. I don't remember that, but good on you. I did not realize that.
what's interesting is over the years, I have found more affinity for French than I have for German. Like I look at German and it just kind of makes me a little cranky. And I look at French and I'm like, oh, I wish I could read that. So
It is a beautiful language, I have to
it
say.
it really
Sounds
is. I,
Le apéro. It just sounds better than happy hour,
totally.
So many of their words, I should come up with a list of words that are terrible in English but sound great in French, but I didn't, so sorry. Maybe I'll write a Substack post about that.
Actually, yes, that would be a great one. I would really enjoy that because there are definitely things that you say in French that you're just like, well, that sounds incredible. And it's like, no, I just said, turn left here.
I need
Like,
to go to the toilet.
right. Right. I asked where the bathroom was and it just sounds lovely.
it does. It's such a pretty language. I can't understand it at all. Like Yeah, when I was a adult learning in Spain, there were people from all over Europe taking Spanish with me, and it was really funny to hear all of their accents coming through as they spoke Spanish with me. Like a German speaking, like, I remember the Brit in my class. So it was like, como te llamas? Like you could totally hear the British accent coming through the
Yeah.
Spanish. But when the
Yes.
French would speak Spanish, I couldn't understand them in Spanish either. It was wild. To me, it's just like music that has no, like, I can't parse the meaning. But I love the way it sounds. It's beautiful. I just looked up pictures of where you are in, is it pronounced Dijon when you're there? It's not
No,
Dijon.
it's Dijon.
Oh, Dijon. Okay.
Like
It's
the
beautiful.
mustard.
Like the mustard, yeah. But nicer sounding because we would say Dijon and you say Dijon.
Dijon croissants.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm making a lot of your American listeners angry right now. But I'm
Oh my-
American, so it's okay.
You are not. Yeah, you're in safe space here.
Right. Total safe space.
We're coming up at the top of the hour. So we have to ask the question that we ask most of our guests when we don't forget to ask it. You want to ask the question, Lawrence?
You do the honors.
Okay. Well, this is Gen Xy. What is the most Gen X song of all time?
I mean, I have to go with "Smells Like Teen Spirit."
I was
Got
so
to.
hoping you would say that
Got
because
to.
I have a funny story about that song today. Because I'd say, what do you think, Lawrence? At least a third or half of our guests.
Right. I want to hear what Sasha's explanation is. Keep going,
Yes,
Sasha.
go.
Why? I don't know, because when I think of Gen X, that song and the video just comes into my head.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, God, we had the best music. I'm sorry. Gen X, best music, like hands down.
So other than the ultimate Gen X song, what is your favorite? Like, what is your genre of Gen X music?
Well, I will give you the genre. I am a huge Britpop alternative music person. So
I knew it.
Yeah. So, I did the dance.
Right.
So it would be everything from Erasure to Madness to Squeeze to The Cure, Depeche Mode, all those guys.
Yay. One of us. You're one of us.
One
You're
of
my
us.
people. You're my people. Yeah, let's go dancing.
Yes,
Absolutely.
I would love to. I do have to tell you a funny aside. My mom loves doing the crossword puzzle and all the New York Times puzzles. And yesterday the clue was Nirvana's song blank like Teen Spirit.
Amazing.
And she asked me, "Do you know what that is?" And I was like, "Yeah, Mom, it Smells. Like you don't know that song?" And she was like, "No, I've never heard of it. I don't know what this is." And so I played it.
Holy
And
shit.
she was like, "I don't know what this is, and it sounds terrible. This is awful music." And I was like, "This is literally the most impactful song probably of the last 40 years." Like,
Yeah.
I can't think of another song that changed music and culture like this song did.
Yes.
Its impact can't be overstated. And I was like, wow, how have you never heard of this? But I did get to be the crossword puzzle hero. So thanks,
That's
Nirvana.
awesome. What great timing. What amazing
Right?
timing. Yeah.
Yes. So when we asked the question, I was like, oh, I hope she says Smells Like Teen Spirit so I can give the New York Times
song like that you never heard of. Yeah.
totally obscure. I know. I was like, wow, okay. I guess it's early in the week. The puzzle gets harder as the week goes.
Indeed.
It was so lovely getting to meet you.
Thank you so much,
hour.
Sasha.
You guys too. I'm so happy to have been here and come visit.
Oh my
come
gosh. Yes.
Come share some wine and a baguette with me.
Our other friend, Rich Kagan, who is
Rich
also
is a
living.
trip.
Yes.
He's a
I think
trip.
he's on the chat.
Oh, hey, Rich. I don't know how Rich is so prolific with his posts. I'm just like, dear God, cranking those guys out, and they're funny as hell. I love it. I'm hoping to one day meet Rich in Carcassonne. Yeah,
It looks beautiful there.
Yes, we're definitely down for a trip to France where we get to meet all of our new friends, all of our Substack
Okay, well,
friends.
let's make it happen. Maybe Substack can sponsor a Gen X
I love it.
Francophile trip.
That is a brilliant idea.
Yeah,
Lawrence, let's put this in the fiscal year 26 planning that we're going to get a sponsor to send us to. We should just have one that sends us on tour to meet everybody.
We're going to get
the States over to Europe.
We're gonna get Grey
Yeah.
Poupon to sponsor a trip to Dijon, France, although you won't be there at that time. So wherever you
I'll
are,
come
we'll get
back. I'll come back.
right,
I mean, that'll be
perfect.
great. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I love it.
Awesome.
Thanks to
Sasha, thank
everyone
you
for
so
joining
much.
us.
Thank you. It was so much
We
fun.
love
Have a
you.
great afternoon. Au
Love you,
revoir.
mean it.
Au
Au
revoir, au
revoir.
revoir.
Au revoir.
Mwah, au revoir.
Au revoir.